Hey y'all, it's Tim Miller from the Bulwark with a quick Tim take, and I brought in my buddy JVL for this one. How's it going, JVL?
Man, I it's like I'm gazing into the Palantir. I say things and they happen.
Okay, well, and this is why you're here. Just 2 days ago, JVL in his newsletter, which you must subscribe to on thebulwark.com, wrote about how Trump's leading campaign managers, kind of his co-campaign manager team, Chris LaCivita, who was famed for doing swift vote Veterans for Truth against John Kerry, and Susie Wiles, my former boss, the two of them were going to be on the outs because Trump needed someone to blame. 2 days later, the news is in. Trump is restructuring. There's turmoil. People are looking over their shoulders. And you know who's in? The douchiest person in the history of the whole Trump cinematic universe. Stabby eyes, Corey Lewandowski.
Yeah. Boy, it's amazing, right? I guess he couldn't bring in Bannon because Bannon's in jail, right?
Seriously, the only reason they couldn't bring in Bannon is because he's in jail. Okay, we're going to get to Corey second. Bad breath, Corey Lewandowski, as I used to call him. For the OGs of the Bulwark, you would know that Corey once pushed me in a spin room and then put his stinky breath right in my face after debate. So we'll give you the longer story on that another day. But before we get to Corey, LaCivita and Wiles, you saw this. You were looking into the orb just 2 days ago, and you're like, these guys might be on. They're not fired yet, but it's coming. How hot's the hot seat? What do you think?
I mean, it's got to be somebody. Somebody has to take the fall for this, and he can't fire JD, probably. He can't fire Tucker. He can't fire Don Jr. And so we're about to hit the Democratic convention. And I think by the end of the Democratic convention and the midweek of the week after, she's probably going to be sitting on either a 5 or 6 point lead in the polling average over Trump, at which point he's going to lose his mind. And that's, rolling into
Even
2
worse.
weeks later, the debate, right? So she's going to hit her ceiling, and maybe it'll be an artificial ceiling. Maybe it'll be just a post-convention bounce. But when the guy who has spent the last year basically measuring drapes for his old office is suddenly down 5 large to a black lady, I'm sorry, that's just not going to go over well, and someone's going to have to get fired. Plus, firing campaign managers the summer before an election is what he does. He's done it 3 times. He's done it 3 times. It would be weird if he didn't fire his campaign managers in the midst of a losing presidential campaign.
Yeah, the only objection I have to that is that Trump doesn't need to measure the drapes because that's what he spent his time doing when he was in the Oval Office. He wasn't like reading his policy briefings. He already knows the drape lengths, the optimal drape lengths for the White House offices. It's the one thing that he knows besides what's on his stories on the news. I think that as far as Chris and Susie go, for people who haven't followed this stuff that closely, both of these are establishment types. As I said, I worked for Susie on the John Huntsman campaign, like the most moderate campaign that in the 21st century Republican presidential campaign. She was the first campaign manager. She got fired from that. Wasn't her fault, to be honest. To be fair to Susie here, it's a long story. And then Chris LaCivita, again, has been more of an establishment person, hard hitting, a reputation for being a rat fucker, but not really. He wasn't working for like the Tea Party guys, really. It was more, he was kind of like a henchman for establishment Republicans in the Bush era. And so, the two of them were always kind of a weird fit, and it was working because Trump was winning, right? Like,
Yep.
When things are good, things are easy, and there were always these people in the MAGA right that were in his ear saying that you can't trust these two, but he was sticking with them because he was winning, and it was ostensibly working. I always thought the first sign of turmoil, there was going to be real trouble in paradise. For that reason, It was not. They're not Trumpers. It's not a natural fit.
Yeah, and I mean, look, you saw it beginning with the Trump's pushback from 2025, right? When the Trump campaign sort of disavowed Project 2025, the Molly Hemingways and Mike Cernoviches of the world lost their minds and were like, "What? These traitors!" Right? And then you had LaCivita and Wiles off talking to Tim Alberta about how smart they were. And there has been a real undercurrent of hey, we're the smart ones and we're just managing this animal over here.
Yes.
He does this circus monkey over here. He does what we tell him to do. And Trump, I'm sure, was not happy, but willing to take it while A, he was winning, and B, he was in the position where he thought he had to win to stay out of jail. But now he doesn't have that hanging over him anymore. He understands the fix is in. He ain't never going to jail. And so between that and now he's losing, why wouldn't he get rid of them?
Concur. All right. So now they have to suffer the indignity of being layered. Well, at least according to Corey. The reports are that Corey was telling friends that he was layering them. I think there's some reasons to maybe distrust Corey's account of anything, which we'll get into. But that's what he says. He's going to be their boss. Just kind of breathing his dog breath on their faces in meetings in South Florida, where it's already kind of hot and sweaty. For people who don't know Corey, I want to show you. I want to do two of my favorite Corey flashbacks. One is a clip right here, and then I'll tell you a story that I wrote about a couple years ago. Let's watch this one.
I read today about a 10-year-old girl with Down syndrome who was taken from her mother and put in a cage. I read about did you say want to a 10-year-old with Down syndrome being taken from her mother?
What I said is you can pick anything you want up, but the bottom line is very clear.
You?
When you cross the border
dare you,
illegally,
sir?
Great work by CNN there. I think he might have been a paid CNN contributor at that time. Womp womp to a 10-year-old with Down syndrome being put in a cage. JVL, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I try not to get too hot about these things, but Corey Lewandowski is a very bad human being who deserves to have bad things happen to him.
Yes.
I just don't know what else to say about that.
Yeah, there's not much else to say. Speaking of trash, the other Corey Lewandowski story, which, we hate to brag, right? But it might be the best thing I've ever written, was about an evening he spent with a young woman named Trishelle. They were at an addiction awareness fundraiser at a Benihana, in the banquet room of the Benihana in Las Vegas. This was after Corey's had been kicked out of the Trump orbit, I think the second time. He's one of these characters that never leaves, like this, sort of a stink that you can't get off your shirt. And so it was in between his spats in Trump world. And he's at this event, this fundraiser. Trishelle is a big donor. Her husband was a big donor to Trump, to MAGA world. It's a group dinner, and she's Mormon, many children, teetotaler. Corey is proceeding to get hammered. During the dinner, he tells her a story about how he stabbed multiple people to death and murdered them in his youth in Massachusetts. And then Kristi Noem, the governor of South Dakota, is also there. I think she was the guest of honor. She's texting him under the table because there's some rumors they had a love affair. Texting him under the table, telling him to stop. He's touching this woman. She's running away from him. He's following her down a hallway, menacing her, and eventually the police have to get involved. And so, you can read the whole police report. We'll put a link there in the little notes down below the YouTube if you want. That's the kind of person Trump's turning to. Trump's in trouble, and he's like, I want the guy that was bragging or lying, who knows, about his past as a murdering stabber, sexually assaulting an unassuming wife at an addiction awareness fundraiser.
Yeah, but this is, look, Donald Trump is a wannabe mafioso. This is what his view of himself is as a gangster kingpin. And so he's reaching out for one of his button men. And Corey is like we're in The Sopranos, like he's like the Joey Pants, right? He's a button man who's reliable, but also kind of a fuck up. And so you remember the Mueller report? So in the Mueller report, Trump tasks Corey with delivering a message in person to, I want to say at the time it was to the sitting AG. And Corey's like, yeah, I'll do it, boss. I'll do it, boss. Because, Trump doesn't trust no communication can work except for face-to-face communications. Again, like a mob boss. And Corey just never does it. because Corey realizes that if he does it, he's putting himself in legal exposure. And Trump is just willing to, he's got a guy who he knows would do time for him. And so he's reaching out to him again. And it's an amazing.
I also think maybe he's down. He's depressed. This is also what you do when you're depressed. You know, he's like, he wants a buddy around. You know, he wants somebody that he can, do some locker room talk with. Tell some stories.
Somebody who is not going to tell him is the other part. Someone who is not going to tell him, sir, please stay on message. Sir, please talk about the economy, sir. Right, which is what LaCivita and Wiles are doing now. It's what the rest of the Republican establishment is tearing their hair out about, and which, of course, is wrong. I mean, just as a practical political matter, they're wrong. Trump should be doing the crazy Trump stuff, but he's going to want Corey around, and Corey's whole thing is always just like, I'm only holding his coat. He's the magic man, and let Trump be Trump. That's the Corey magic. I wonder, where do you think Kellyanne sits in all of this? Because Kellyanne popped up during the Vance thing. As the Vance fiasco unfolded, Kellyanne was one of the ones going around knifing the current team there. She is the other former campaign manager floating out in the ether. Do you think she fits in as a piece anywhere here, Tim, or no?
I think that there are machinations happening. I wouldn't be surprised if Kellyanne felt like because it's not just Corey, some other Goombas are coming in, some other bros. Yeah. Wouldn't be surprised if some of them are in the Kellyanne loop. She certainly has been in Trump's ear. As she posted that picture the other day, we'll put the picture up on the screen here of her and Trump. It was like a selfie. I forget if they're in Bedminster or Mar-a-Lago, and she's talking about how they're winners. How winners are together. So her little fingernails are in here somewhere. Where exactly is TBD. I just going back to Corey one last thing. You hate to hand it to somebody like Corey Lewandowski about anything, because he's about as repulsive and repellent of a human as exists on planet Earth. But he's right about one thing. Even repellent people can be right about one thing. In 2016, let's let Trump hold these airport hangar rallies with the plane behind him. Like, Corey was an advance man. That was Corey's backstory. Like, he was not like a strategist like these other people. He was an advance man. He set up events, made them look pretty. And, he's like, we have this plane. We'll just let Mr. Trump go up there and do his, Atlantic City shtick, stand-up shtick. We'll put the plane behind him. We'll do the flyover where people cheer. And, I don't know how much that was his idea or how much he was just supportive of it. Like, there was no no's, right? Anytime Trump or someone in their orbit was like, let's go more grandiose, let's be more ridiculous, like, Corey was always like, yes, yes, yes. And that was right in that 2016 primary.
Yeah.
Like, that was the right thing to do to distinguish Trump from the other people in the field running more traditional campaigns. And so he was right about one thing. Problem is, that was like, we're at August 15, 2024. That was like August 15, 2015 when that was being called. So being right about something 9 years ago, I don't know how much that's going to bring to the table at this point.
Yeah, I got one more question for you, Tim.
Okay.
So Chris and Susie are the first straight campaign managers he's had. And by straight, I mean they aren't from the MAGA world. They aren't true believers, and unlike Manafort, they're not bent, right?
And unlike Kellyanne, they're not like also kind of wanting to be mini celebrities, right. Commentators, reality show stars, etc. Right? Like they don't want that. I mean, they did do some bragging in the Atlantic and stuff, but that's like traditional strategist kind of bragging.
Right.
Not
they want to be like working political people.
Yes, right.
If they get axed. Like every other time Trump has fired campaign managers, he's done it in such a way where he pretends that they were never doing anything for him, right? Remember, Sloppy Steve, I don't even know what he was doing around here. I don't even know that guy, right? Manafort, I don't even know what Paul Manafort is. But he takes care of them, right? When we fired Corey, but Corey was never really gone. It was always understood, and Corey was always purely on the team and not, was never going to say anything. Same
Corey's
thing with
cashing
Manafort.
in for access.
Right. Same thing with Bannon. What do Wiles and LaCivita do if they get actually cashiered, like actually shown the door? Do they just go off quietly and not say anything? Do they? I mean, what do you think?
I think LaCivita is a wild card on this front. Wiles, my guess is Wiles, this is towards the end of her career, twilight of her career. She's been around for a while, and she lives in Florida, and she could probably make a decent living just staying in Trump's good graces and saying, I got you all the way here, and I'm not going to go over here, and other people are going to pay me just to have access to you to get your endorsement. Like, random congressional candidates will, throw her $20,000 a month to like make the Trump endorsement happen for them.
Right.
And so I think that's probably her move. LaCivita, I think, is more of a wild card, right? Because to your point, I mean, he's mid-late career. He's not close to retirement. I mean, he's going to want to be a top, and he's tasting it. And this is like his chance. He almost was the advisor for the White House, for the guy that won the White House. It's like he's going to want to get in on one of the 28 guys, you would think. And so this is why the MAGA people hate him. He was no Bulwark, but he was out there doing the toe in the water on January 6th was terrible, kind of thing, saying that kind of stuff. So I do think he's a little bit more of a wild card on some knives going back the other direction. So
on background, they'll never
out.
Cross Trump, in front. But on background, I could see him talking a little bit.
Trouble in paradise, JVL. Anytime there's trouble in MAGA world, we gotta just come on here and enjoy it a little bit. Life so rarely gives you these little pleasures, these little delicacies.
Tim, what do I always say? What do I always say? There is nothing
favorite JVL
in the world, nothing as delicious as watching bad things happen to bad people.
Amen to that, brother. With that, subscribe to the feed. Much happening. We'll be back soon. See ya. Hey, if you like this video and our content, I'd love for you to become a Bulwark Plus subscriber. You get access to bonus podcasts, secret podcasts, and newsletters we put out every day, plus some behind-the-scenes takes that I don't always post on this feed. In addition, you can become part of the Bulwark community. Come over to our Substack and comment and meet other like-minded people. We'd love to have you. Starting today, you can get a free trial at thebulwark.com/free trial. The link is right here on the screen and below in the description. We'd love to have you as part of our community. Come on and give it a free try today.